having you go last because I know you've invested in this project for a long time, and I know you have an opinion. So I wanted you to, if you wanted to address any of the issues that have been brought up, or just let us know your thoughts.
I will. Okay, great. Great. I'm going to start with some questions. First of all, so I really do want to thank you for the time you spent on creating this professional looking presentation. I can tell it took a lot of time. I do have a few questions for Nicole at Community Powered Workshop. So were you aware, or when did you become aware of the major displacement planned for 250 low-family homes and existing SF3 affordable housing stock in this neighborhood that would be triggered with the approval of this plan, including several Williamson Creek Working Group members' homes? This addresses
thank you for that question.
Were you aware, or when did you become aware that a greenway versus a green belt, the built environment, and the changes of adopting the Atlas 14 floodplain right now puts our entire neighborhood and 250 additional homes in the 25-year floodplain because of infill development upstream? So and these are already affordable housing stock, which is affordable housing's problem. These are already families in the center of the city they're shrinking. And so I was just wondering, were we just the, casualty of progress?
I'm aware of no such plans. Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, great. I'm not aware of any plans to displace residents. I'm not sure if there is a separation in your question between the Atlas 14 adoption, which is not part of this vision planning process, and the actual vision plan document itself. The vision plan document itself does not have any statements or goals as to the displacement of residences in the neighborhood. We've actually had a lot of conversations.
It does, actually.
Excuse me, ma'am. We've had a lot of conversations from the very beginning of this process about concerns about green gentrification and the unintended consequences of neighborhood improvements that have happened in other places in Austin and that we've seen across the country, and have been very intentional about involving departments from across the city to have conversations about how anti-displacement strategies may be applicable here as well.
They are definitely applicable. They just haven't been used. We're the tail of the Eastern Crescent, and I have, that documentation from GAVA. I didn't realize you all were still working with GAVA, as Siobhan said. I'm curious as to that relationship at this moment as well.
Is that a question?
It is. Like, what is your relationship with GAVA at this point? Because I didn't realize you all were working with GAVA at this point.
Well, GAVA is not a partner on this specific project, so I'm not sure that our relationship with that organization is relevant in this conversation.
You brought it up. I'm sorry. Okay. So then my second question is, what was the scope of the St. David's grant, and who was it awarded to?
The St. David's grant was awarded to the Nature Conservancy. It was to support the hiring of a landscape architect to create the vision plan and work alongside Community Powered Workshop and the Nature Conservancy, and to pay stipends for community members to participate in the community working group so that we were appropriately valuing their time alongside the work that everybody else was doing in the process.
And so what was the level of involvement with Amy Belair, the scientist, and the Nature Conservancy, who were to be the liaisons with the city?
I believe you're aware of.
I know, but no one else is.
Yeah.
But no one else is. Thank you.
Yeah. So the Nature Conservancy was an early partner in this process. They began this relationship at the same time that we did. with you and the rest of the neighborhood. We have worked with the Nature Conservancy to receive multiple grants to support engagement and this work. The Nature Conservancy's original role was to help to do field assessments and mapping of the area, and to act as a liaison between the team and the city working group, including the highlighting the environmental aspects that are important to the missions of various departments, including Watershed and Parks Department and the Office of Sustainability, and in helping to communicate the contribution that this model that's being set up with this project may be able to make towards urban resilience and climate change efforts across the state as a statewide, national, and global organization. Due to the pandemic and budget cuts to the Nature Conservancy's Texas chapter, our local partners position and the program under which we were collaborating were eliminated in the summer of 2020, and we worked with the Nature Conservancy to transfer the remaining responsibilities of their staff and the funding to community-powered workshops so that the collective work could continue. By this time, the field assessments and mapping had been completed and the city working group had been established. And so the Nature Conservancy team worked to transfer responsibilities of managing that city working group over to community-powered workshop and transfer those remaining funds.
Got it. So when we spoke with Amy Belair a couple weeks ago, she indicated she left in March, and I know that this process hadn't actually really even begun yet. Was there any consideration, since you lost the person who was awarded the grant and the person with the skill set to actually implement the grant in the vision of the community, was there ever a consideration with COVID to just table it for a bit, since everything sort of fell apart before it started?
Well, Amy's departure was over an extended period of time, and she is continuing to work for the Nature Conservancy under a different role. And so we have had the luck to be able to continue to do what we needed to do to transfer those responsibilities. I will say that all of the work that has been done to receive funding for this project has been a collaborative effort. I would not say that it's fair to characterize the Nature Conservancy as the only one with the ability to lead and implement this kind of planning process.
Okay.
The St. David's Foundation,
You answered it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So, Siobhan, I have a couple questions for you too. So taken from the master plan, page 6 and 7, the project overview, the stated goal of this project was to build long-term collaborative working relationships between community members and public land managers. These working groups place community members and city staff on equal footing in the planning process. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you did in achieving this goal with our community and the Watershed Protection Department?
I'm not really sure how to answer that.
Are we on equal footing? Are we on equal footing? On a
The
scale of 1 to
effort
10.
of the collaborative working group was to reach or implement a model that could better collaborate the city land managers and the community members to meet on these conversations about what to envision in the Greenway. And I think we were successful in that effort as much as we could be. We were able to.
But were we on equal footing? Is the community on any kind of equal footing with the city?
I would.
Excuse me.
There's a lot of resident.
Let me just. Board member,
May I jump in?
You may. I'll move on.
Councilman.
Well, no. Hold on 1 second. Board member Mason Murphy, could you, as far as the community outreach, I know that board member Cotton Seibel had a question, and since you're on that, would you mind addressing that, answering that question? Thank you.
Yes. So, and so did Nancy as well. So the patchwork of homes that were left were not engaged with at all. In fact, their voices were actively silenced, and there have been immense barriers to participation. With community powered workshop and the partners on this plan. Watershed Protection Department is complicit, PART is complicit. And this plan, I have tried and tried to edit it, and it is uneditable. It is fundamentally, systematically flawed. There was no meaningful community engagement. What came out was a virtual reality based in a virtual time, and it looks really good, but it is not at all what our community wanted. Our community wanted a natural surface trail that resembled Blund Creek. Our community has been asking since 2015 of PARD staff for help removing invasives in our creek. The only help we ever asked for was invasives in our creek. And you saw from Larry Murphy's pictures and Malcolm's pictures, that's what our creeks look like now. If we had removed the ligustrums, we wouldn't have campers. We wouldn't have the degradation. And so I'm not heartless, but when you have a community where 58 homes have already been destroyed, 58 families removed from their homes, and they're looking at 250 more from Union Pacific to Congress, the Union Pacific Rail to Congress, that's my whole neighborhood. When you look at the pictures, that's the 25-year floodplain. And whenever there is a built environment like a greenway, things get triggered. That is considered a transportation corridor. We already know Mayor Adler's an eminent domain attorney. I don't want to give the city one chance to disrupt the quality of life that this community has. This is a unique, wonderful, wild, and very, it's a wilderness corridor. And we don't want it paved. And we don't want our neighbors to be kicked out. And we want to be heard. And we've been doing community engagement in this community since 2006 and writing grants ourselves, doing everything. And me specifically, I made the mistake of bringing in community powered workshop. It's bringing the wolves into the chicken house. I'm sorry. We want no part of it. We want no part of that gentrification that's coming, and we're not going to pave the way. You can pick another creek. Our creek is degraded. We have TCEQ violations all over the place. Nobody wants to clean it up. We have stolen vehicles, catalytic converters, drugs, prostitutes turning tricks, where my kids used to play with no supervision in the creek.
Okay.
So that is the problem. That is the elephant in the room.
Okay. And I totally understand your passion about this. I know how long you've worked on this. I'd like to give them just an opportunity on this. And then we really are going to have to.
We're going to have to move.
Yes, but go ahead. If somebody would like to address their concerns, please feel free to do so. Or not?
I'd like to speak. Yeah, I would like to speak to the engagement aspect. And I'll let the team at Oscar Robinson address the aspects of the natural trail and as to the technical aspects of the plan. But I'd just like to reiterate the information shared previously by the rest of the team about the extensive engagement and creative engagement that has been done throughout this process. And very challenging times. We have achieved a substantial amount of collaboration with the community members. We've continued to meet requests for engagement, including after the presentation to the Environmental Commission. We continued to meet with neighborhood groups, continued to work with individual residents to receive comments on the plan and to address those comments in the plan up until the, hot off the presses came to y'all. We also recognize that it's very unlikely that an engagement process will reach every single individual in a neighborhood. And that's just kind of the system as it is. We do know that as this process moves forward, and whether the or there will continue to be work by the community in this area, and there will be engagement continuing in adopting the plan, adjusting the plan, implementing the things in the plan. There will continue to be community voices as part of that process and community leadership in that process, which is exactly as it should be. And we're in full support of that. So before my child interrupts too much more, I can hand it over to Oscar Robinson if y'all want to address any of the conversations about the elements of the.
So board members,
Nicole,
it's Kimberly McNeeley speaking. Are you able to hear me? Because I tried.
Yes, we can hear you.
So it's now 7:15. I want to remind you of the posting language on this particular item, and the posting language for this particular item is a discussion about the plan itself. It's not about land management. It's not about the land management of the land. It's not about gentrification or the relationship between watershed protection or the Parks and Recreation Department. And I respectfully ask that at this particular point in time, you consider a final comment and then the opportunity to please move forward, either taking action on this if you so choose, or deciding to not take action on it and allowing us to move forward. It's a little disappointing to have some of this conversation feel like a huge attack. And I just want to let you know that my team, the watershed protection team, and the team that was part of this process does not deserve to be attacked in public. It's just, you're allowed to have your opinion. You're certainly allowed to express your concerns about this particular plan, but being attacked is not acceptable. And I just need you to know that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Director McNeeley. I do want to, we need to wrap this up. So I am going to,
I'll wrap it up.
well, I wanted to also give Board Member DePalma a minute, since he didn't get to speak earlier, if he wanted to say something. So I'll let him, if you don't mind, just go ahead, Board Member DePalma.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everybody's comments and inputs and understands a lot of the concerns. My original concern was engagement, what that looked like. Very familiar with the engagement process, having done a lot of engagement over the years, and probably the most substantive being the 2017 facilities and bond, the bond for the 2017 AIC bond. And I remember the frustration of a community member saying, you didn't knock on every door. And I'm not saying that's what's being requested here, but I mean, I do understand a lot of that frustration, and you try to reach everybody out through different mechanisms. The number, I'd actually expected the unique contacts to be much smaller. And so I don't have a problem with the specific contacts. I do want to also correct something really quick. When I talked about the Greenbelt Greenway was the language used up in the previous long range plan. Greenbelt was the language that we have used as a department in the current master plan. So wanted to put that out there. I appreciate board member Rinaldi for highlighting the need for inclusive spaces. That is a hardscape. We need to make sure that everybody's included. When I look at the Atlas 14 flood map on Flood Pro, I see an extension to it, but I see it mostly on Weston Road, which doesn't look like it has any current homes. And then there's, I think on Greens Highway in St. George's Green, there's definitely homes over there as well. I don't know how that gets changed, because that is like how the city adopts the Atlas 14 model. So I don't know how that plays into it. I don't know anything regarding Union Pacific conversation. It's the first I've ever heard of it anywhere. And so with all that, I feel, I'm not gonna say I feel comfortable moving forward, because there's so much more I'd like to resolve. And to get a better understanding about. But when I look at the degree of outreach during a pandemic, it is substantive. Would I support it? An additional meeting? Absolutely, if budget allowed. I don't know if we have that sort of budget for an amendment to a contract. So that's really it. That's all the comments. I would say it's beautiful. It's a beautiful looking project. I do have one question, and that is just to validate or to get confirmation that this is a segment along Williamson Creek, which desperately needs to be cleaned up, as board member Mason Murphy has talked about. I mean, this is a substantive issue across our city. I see the exact same, maybe not even to the degree, but over in the Oak Hill Y. But this is a segment of Williamson Creek. And am I correct that as this gets done, we will see other segments added to bring that connectivity, particularly out to my community in the Oak Hill Y? And that's for the consultant or staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member, Vice Chair DePalma. So, and I know Board Member Mason Murphy that this, as I said earlier, I know you've worked on this for a long time and are very passionate about it and feel really strongly and that the things that y'all have done as a community may not have been recognized, and that I know that's very frustrating. And
well, real quick, can I get an answer to my question though?
Yes. What was your question?
The question was out there. So the question was that this is a segment to Williamson Creek, and it would ultimately connect to a future segment of Williamson Creek. That it's not just stopping here, because I agree with Board Member Mason Murphy. I know the vision that I can't say everybody, but many of my friends have in Southwest Austin is that connectivity of Williamson Creek from Oak Hill Y going all the way, beyond.
I could try to answer your question. Oh, sorry.
I'll try to answer a little bit, and then Greg, if you want to fill in where I missed. So the original intention of this process from the start was to see how we might be able to create a different model for how community members engage in decisions about public land. And so, yes, this plan is specifically about this section of Central Williamson Creek, but hope to set out a model, continued collaboration upstream and downstream for that full connectivity. I'll also clarify that this work has not been done under a contract with the city at all. There's only philanthropic dollars in this at this point. All of the grant funding that has been supporting this work has been received by the Nature Conservancy and Community Powered Workshop. And I'll also share that Board Member Mason Murphy was a paid contractor on previous pieces of this work that has led into the vision plan today.
I'll just add, Board Member, real quickly to your comment about kind of really expanding the trail system. As you know, I know you were heavily involved in our long range plan, most recent, and our goal in our long range plan is to expand trails through our creeks and the green belts, to expand those trail systems to connect to a much larger parts of our districts and metros. So actively, our department goes and either through our vision planning practices of going back through a process like this, or whether it's through our parkland dedication ordinance, we make every effort to expand those trail connections, because we know they're very important for neighborhoods to connect to green space. And that was laid out in the long range plan, which was approved by council.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay, we need to wrap this up. I do want to say that I'm not going to ask any questions because we have no time, but has the potential to be a beautiful property, and I really am very vested in trying to ensure that we provide those beautiful trails, access, nature to all of our community across Austin. And this is one place that I think really we need to do that. So I think it really does need to happen. And I do appreciate everybody's effort to make sure that does happen, because it's long overdue and the work needs to be done. But it seems like community outreach is a challenge. I know there's always that debate, where is it community outreach but not community engagement? But this is one of the few times before the Parks Board that we've really heard communities feel really strongly that they were not actually listened to, which is concerning. And obviously it was concerning for Environmental Commission, because they did ask for more community outreach as well. So having said that, you've certainly given us a long list of things that you did that were impressive in community outreach. The cards, reaching out as much as you could. I know it's challenging. I've done that in different capacities in my work, but I do think it didn't work as well as it has before, I guess is the best way to put it. So here we are. We've got to move on. And I'm not sure whether we're ready or not, but we do need to move on.
Okay, this is Board Member Mason Murphy. I beg to differ on most of the data that they just supplied. That is inaccurate data. Our neighborhood represents District 2, 3, and 5, and we come together in the middle of our neighborhood, and overwhelmingly, our community is opposed to this plan. I move that we do not move forward with this plan.
Okay.
Lewis, since you haven't closed the public hearing, do you mind if I respond just really quickly?
Yes, quickly. We have got. I'm about to just stop. So go ahead.
So I'm so sorry. I just feel like I really need to say this, because I'm obviously not representing anyone except Dr. Kerr Robinson tonight, but I know the position you're in, where you're hearing really divisive comments from folks, and you're hearing one side of the story that sounds very different from what we're saying. And so I feel for you, because I've been in that position in the past. I want to say that I do feel like a lot of those comments are disingenuous. We have received comments directly from Kate Mason Murphy, who I was surprised didn't recuse tonight, since she has been paid to work on this project in the past. And those comments were responded to in time with direct. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We responded to every single one of those comments that was directly relevant to the vision plan. And what I fear is actually happening here, and it breaks my heart because this team has worked so hard on this plan, is that a disagreement between watershed protection and the Mason Murphys that has escalated to violence has actually created a toxic environment for this plan, which, to be honest, it was my call to cancel that public meeting that we were scheduled for, because a third of the people registered for it were the Mason Murphys and their family, and that was a couple of weeks after a violent threat was made to watershed protection staff. And so I cannot go on, with how proud I am of our team and the work that they're doing, feeling okay not saying that I feel like this has become toxic because of a very separate issue that we're not posted to talk about tonight.
Okay, I think that we're not going to be
Disagree.
Let me just say this. I don't think the Parks Board is at this point ready to do anything on this, given all we've heard. And I think you need to have some kind of meeting with community and then come back to us. I'm just not willing to.
So board member chair, there's a motion on the table which has not been seconded.
Yes. Okay.
So is there a second for Board Member Mason Murphy's motion to not recommend the plan? Okay, there's no motion. I don't see anybody.
I'm not ready. Yeah, as I said, I think this is that we have a lot of passions that are really high, and I really think that some kind of, whether it's mediation or whatever needs to happen.
I understand that, but you have to give the board the opportunity to at least make a motion if they want to.
Okay.
Somebody can make a motion to not move forward. They can make a motion to approve, but we need to give the board that opportunity to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion. Could I make a motion that we table this discussion until? Hello?
I'm sorry.
I would like to make a motion that we table this and have further discussion at another time,
Second that.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so we have everybody except for Board Member Faust opposed? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm voting in favor of tabling. I'm not opposed.
Okay, right. We're not Board Member Rinaldi, Board Member Faust. It was what I wasn't sure about you. Are you
Sure.
Okay, I think we voted unanimously to table it. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time coming out here, and hopefully we will can do this in a more productive manner next time. Thank you. We need to move on.